Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. We're on landscape, believe this is number 6. We're doing the challenge. Today I'm going to do something a little different with you. We're going to paint a higher contrast landscape with some movement. I'm going to be adding a little bit of extender to certain parts of my paint to do what I call a lifting out technique. So normally we shoot for about 90 minutes to 2 hours. I might go just a little longer if I explain a bunch of this technique for you as I slow down to show you some of the lifting procedures of it. It's a beautiful painting, beautiful photo. We have a nice photo here. Let me show you that nice photo. This is up in Montana, a stream coming off of Lake McDonald. It's beautiful. But I love the movement of it. I love to paint streams and water. This dark occupies a good third of the painting, which creates a lot of drama for the water. But I'm thinking of opening it back up just a little bit more of an angle here, getting some different colors, trees, maybe a different back hill along the way. Are we going to paint all the green lichen here onto the rocks? I'm not real, sure if we might change some of that up. So there'll be a few things that we're going to change up onto the photos. You know me, those of you that watch a lot of things. I love photos. I love painting for photos. I really love painting from my monitor the best, which I have a big monitor right here, and a monitor there, and a monitor there, and a monitor there. But I like painting off the monitors because they show more colors, more color depth. But it's nice to have a photo to help color match, for you to see colors, to see the tonal changes. And after you do that for a while, you don't need to have that color photo right there, but it's always a good idea to have a reference. When I'm out plein air painting, I put the color out, and what I use is a little bit of a paper towel, and I put the color onto the edge of my paper towel, and I hold it up and I look to the color that I'm trying to capture out in nature, and it's a great way. And that's what I use plein air painting for. I mean, I love painting from photos, but photos don't always capture the true color. And when you go out there plein air, you can capture that true color. So I put out my palette here, working from my glass palette, which I've showed you before. In this is my Hansa, my Indian yellow, my yellow oxide, my naphtha red light, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and burnt sienna, phthalo green blue, the phthalo blue, which is kind of a blue-green, the ultramarine blue, which is kind of blue-violet. I put this quinacridone out by mistake because I use it in florals a lot. So we're not going to use that one. We have red, violet, black, and white. And I'm going to be using my long-handled fusion brushes, which I love to do. Maybe my scraper today. And let's get going. First, what we're going to do is we're going to try to capture this blue that's right out through here. This is about, and you hold it up there and you try to find it. It's lighter than a 7. It's right about an 8. It's darker than that 9. So find that. Oh, and one thing before I get going too far into that. My board, my normal board that I have here, okay, this is just a MDF board. I put a little bit of the canvas prep medium over it. You could use that on canvas. You could also use it on board. It's nice, and just give it a light sanding. I normally will give 2 coats. I just gave 1 here because I'm going to be doing paint so thick, and once you use paint so thick onto a surface, you only prep to lock off to keep the absorption of the surface, and 1 coat does it. It doesn't give you a pretty right background where you could have some streaks and stuff in it. But, since I'm going to be using paint so thick, this board is going to be locked off and sealed anyway, so why waste 2 coats on it? That's my whole feeling of it. Oh, one other thing. You can see back up over my shoulder there, the red fox. I started that last night for one of my online classes. That is stage 2 of a 5-stage of the painting. I'm going to put her under some pine trees and snow, and she's going to get a lot more color and textures. We're going to do a lot of texturing on her. But that's a real fun class. That's one of the online class. So I started that last night. Had a bunch of fun last night with that. But anyway, so I put my sketch out onto here, and I might change some of this up. I do like the little bit of a mountain coming back up here and that little bit of blue sky. So let's get going. Let's try that. Let's go. So I'm going to take a bit of my phthalo blue, and some of my ultramarine blue and a bunch of my white here. And we're going to try to get this up. I'm probably going to go a little bit lighter than maybe my 8 so that it dries down. Remember, acrylics dry about 10%, which is about 1 value. So that's one thing that we work on. So, you know, I want to get just a little lighter than my 8 there, which is going to be. And we'll come right into here, and I'm just going to be very heavy with that. Right up into that mountain edge. Now I got a little bit of blue in my brush here that isn't mixed up completely. I'm not gonna scream about that too much. I'll just wipe my brush here, and let's pick up just a bit more light. This is kind of, you know, I like this because I love the journey on this painting. I'll talk to you about some of the things that I liked about this painting, why in this photo, why I chose it. One of it was this journey, and I love that blue sky, and I don't want to eliminate all that, you know, all that blue sky. I want to put some trees and stuff in here. The blue sky, you know, I have some of my students, and you know who I'm referencing right now, they always tell me they don't feel good about a landscape unless they can find the sky. They feel kind of trapped. And it's very true. There's a lot of people, and I love it whenever I can get the blue sky up into a landscape. It's kind of like says, you know, oh, here you go. You know, you're gonna go right down, you know, into there. So I might open this up. Just, you know, I want to put like a little hill back there, and another little hill, because that gives you another plane. But I do like that, the look of that blue sky there. Let's just streak a little bit of white. But it gives you a little bit of a plane. You know, those of you that have studied landscapes with me, I follow the Dutch philosophies of the old Dutch masters of having the 3 triangles and setting up the 3 planes, which sets the ultimate depth, you know, within a painting. So with that, let's take some of this nice blue and let's umber this just a bit here, okay, and a tiny bit of yellow, which will cause it to go just a bit green here. That's a pretty color. Here's a nice soft back receding kind of a hill here, color back there. And let's get it just a little lighter. The lighter you make it, the more atmospheric it is, the further back it goes into your painting. Let's leave a rough little edge here, okay, just a rough little edge along the painting here, and that'll give the impressions of tree lines and stuff like that. All of this is mostly going to, you know, I mean, it's there for the interest of what the viewer sees along the edge here. Your eye is going to be down here, hopefully, where all the movement is, and so that just, it's just going to help you here. Let's just put a bit of a, maybe, so they'll, you know, do they see another crossing little hill there like that? You know, you don't know. But see all the little highs and lows that you get from putting on that thick acrylic and just rubbing it a little bit. That's what I like. And that's what gives the interest of it. It breaks the edge. We don't want to have a solid edge, and we don't want to have any texture back there. We want to save all of our texture for up in here. Now, we're going to bring some trees up ahead of that and in front of that. What I'm going to do is look down into my photo. Okay, so we'll look down. Let's come down here. Let's look down into the photo, and we're going to find, see this nice dark that's here. We're going to find that dark and put that in, that core. This is what we call a core color. I'm going to put that in and then build the trees out on top of that. You know, when I used to be an oil painter, we would always go in and, you know, part of the oil technique in landscape was always to start with your darks, find those, put those in. It's, you know, as a matter of fact, one of the 6 tenets of the Dutch and stuff that they used was start your darks but keep them transparent. And you might want to do something like that. But when you paint with acrylics, you can go back and forth to all of them. It doesn't make a difference. But let's use that, a little bit of that umber and that cool phthalo green blue. Such a pretty color. If we want to kill the color a little bit more, you can add a touch of that red to it, which grays the color. But you get this nice dark. Want it kind of brown and mottled a little bit. And we'll add a bit of water to this so it's a bit transparent. let's see, it's going to come right down. So here's a rock, we're going to have some trees. It's basically, we can just come in with this dark. Now I know this will look a little dark, but let's just streak it like this, okay? Streak that. Let's add a little more water. And, you know, we're basically going to, you know, come in a lot of this area with some lights and darks and find them. But let's just streak that a bit like that. And then right where we want the viewer's, you know, eye to really go is we'll get that nice and core, real core dark right here where that little waterfall back there is going to play against the dark, and it's going to take you on this little visual journey. Let's lift up a bit. We'll put these into trees, but I just want the lifting motion, that's all. I just want the lifting motion back there right now. Okay, that's all it really needs in there. Now, you know, a good thing to do is put some of that core dark right in here, blocking some of that, making sure we get our colors. But like I said, I feel that this, you know, this was really, really dark in here. So I'm going to be putting back in some light. I know I'm going to. And you know, one of the things that I learned from another landscape master was if your core dark is a little bit too dark, warm it and lighten it with burnt sienna, and I love that color into the darks. So we'll vary some of that, but let's come right back into here and let's just be brave. This is really going to push a lot of our stuff and our lines forward here, and you'll see just with that burnt sienna in there, you'll see just a little bit difference here with the other color. Now don't get too much, you know, we want to get some nice brush calligraphy in here. So don't do too many just up and downs. You want to do some side to side, some nice horizontals, a couple of touches and movements of the brush, to not too many, because that's you know, movement and stuff, but we'll push some of that in. We'll leave some of this broken that we'll be able to turn it into trees and stuff here. So let's just come right about into here, and we'll leave that. That'll leave us some room to work some other, or what you could do, well, let's just do this. Let's just take this and thin this out, thin it out, and just wash it over this area here. So we'll get rid of that white, that holiday look to it, but we'll see a different length, a different, really kind of a different area there. Let's take a bit of that core, and let's put of that color, put it back in there so we get a nice harmony, a traveling of some color through there. Okay, so that'll help that. And I know you look at it right now, you go, oh, wow, maybe David's lost his mind a little bit this time. No, this is a good way to start it. It's a contrast. I said this one was going to be a little different than some of the other ones, right? This is what I love about painting. And this is what I said, you know, in the comments. And I said it a couple times in the comments and stuff, those of you that are, you know, commenting on it, or we're discussing these paintings over in our academies, our Facebook group. I say to you there all the time, it's just a little bit of paint and a board. Go have some fun with it. It is fun. Try some things, you know. Give it a try. So many people get wrapped up that this is going to be the greatest, you know, painting of the world. No, these are fun techniques. Painting's fun, you know. It's fun to give it a try, and you know, you're going to have a lot of, you know, we're artists. We're going to have failures. You learn through failures. You don't learn through doing it correct. You learn through failures. You're just like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. That sticks in your mind. Well, I can't do that. That sticks in your mind. You don't go, oh, well, that's real great. I'm going to remember that, because I don't remember those. Not at all. Let's push these to the side here for a second. Here, and off of this, and you can see that real core dark there. I'm going to go after this blue, which is more of a blue-violet here. So basically, some ultramarine blue is your best here. And you can see, once I put the ultramarine blue, which is a blue leaning towards the blue-violet, you can still see that that is a lot more violet in that color than what I have there as my ultramarine. So I'm going to go grab some of my red-violet. And that's a pretty color. That's getting it closer to what that color is going to be. It'll surprise you just how much violet's in there. But it's a nice receding color. So you can still see here, that's got just a bit of a glare there. I'm still a little bit blue of that color. And it could probably have a little bit of our core green in there. Just a bit of that will probably take me very close to that. Let's just go ahead and go with this right now because we're going to change this several times. And you can look and see, yeah, that's pretty close. So ultramarine blue, a little bit of red violet into it to take, actually it's quite a bit of red violet actually, to take that a little closer. And we'll just big brush block this in right here. Like that, and a little bit of our core green, because that's basically going to be reflections and stuff, and that'll be a good color to start. But after I get that color in there, and you look over there, you can see more green. Can you see more green right in there? Yeah, you can see that. Let's not forget to add that, you know, in there. Okay, so we won't do that. Forget that. Let's come up now. We're going to lighten. And we're actually going to green here, this phthalo green, you're going to see one reason why I love phthalo green blue. It makes watercolors like this just really nice. The blue will go a little bit more green here. And let's just umber that just a bit, tone that down as a nice umbery color here. Let's see where we are with this color. Still a little bit blue. See, just a little bit blue with that. So we need a little umber and a little more green. It's surprising, you know, when you're talking about some of these streams and stuff, especially ones that, you know, all the years I spent up in British Columbia, up in the mountains and up in Alaska and stuff, these glacier, you know, water streams, just how green they are, you know. So that's a good one to kind of hit this particular. So we're going to drop down. We're going to hit a little bit more blue, which I'll put back on in a minute. Then we're going to come down into this color, which is going to fall right down into there. And let's just model that up with a little bit more light. We're going to add all kinds of movement in here, all kinds of stuff to make it look like we know what we're doing. So that's coming. Let's come right up over here, add a little bit more blue to this here. And just a bit, I always like to keep that burnt umber in there. Now the blue, you could be switching over to your phthalo also, which is your blue-green. That gives you a nice, that needs to be just a touch darker. Yeah, this is just to set the block, and we're gonna do a lot more to this. So, and I just kind of like those colors mixing there a bit. And we'll pull some of that in. So you get that nice lighter. So you can see that kind of stair-stepping of the colors here. Let's go over here just a bit. So you can see that stair-stepping of the colors here coming into some of these colors, and then we'll get a little bit lighter green. Now, we're going to have all this white, I do, you know, I paint all different kinds of techniques. But one of the techniques that I do is I like to preserve a little bit of white under, you know, of my original undercoat here. So I'll thin out, I'll wash out, so I don't destroy all the white. I'll just wash out. And you know, you get rid of some of your holidays, that makes it work nice. And then you can tap back and pick out some with your brush, with your paper towel, a little bit of the white movement of where that water is going to be. And that helps quite a bit. So we have all of this, let's move that over there like that. We have all this movement of water right here. So we'll take some of that out. We'll cause a nice lightness. What will cause, let's put a little phthalo in that. Work all these colors. And, you know, I paint a lot of movement of water. You can look at all the paintings I did. I did these set of bears sitting up in Alaska in a stream going after salmon, and that's one that I saved. It's back at our house in Pennsylvania, and sits over the fireplace. I love that one, and but I just put a lot of time into that water and the movement of that water. But see how much that makes that look a little bit lighter into there. It's a good color. When you do something like that, take that color, a little bit transparent, and just tap it through a few other areas of your painting, and then you'll get a better harmony through your water. Always think about harmony. Always think about ways of bringing things together. Tap a little bit of that color up and through some of these darks that we're going to have up here. That's just good. That just pulls in good harmony through. You don't see too much of it, but you'll see a little bit of it, and that just, you know, we're artists. We're supposed to be painting the harmony of it, of the whole thing. So, yeah, and I like that, the way that's coming. Now, we'll go a little bit darker, dirtier. Let's get more brown into this, more of our umber right into this, because we're going to come right into this area, and you can see, you know, almost, we'll get some of this color off of that, right here, that I'm pretty close to that. Could have a touch more green and a touch more brown, and that's going to get me real close right into there, into that color right there. We'll have a little bit of that modeling of blues and stuff to come out, but let's pull some of that right into here. This will be a good contrasting color to put the little pools of water and stuff in here. And you need a bit of the dark. You know, you get different lights and darks to your water depending on the viewing angle that you have to the water and at what height you're looking at. But see, I like to get some of this pouncing and some of this movement in there like that. As you get towards that other color, just thin it out a bit so we can have the color here, but we preserve a little bit of our light coming through on our painting as well. So we'll get a little bit of that light preserved. Now I'll be more specific coming in here and painting this water in just a little bit, but we're starting to capture some of the main colors. So when you look at this, you go, yeah, I'll capture some of the main colors. Let's see. And I'm watching again, those of you that, you know, following along with me. I have a camera there set about 8 feet away, which is a normal viewing thing for what we have here in the gallery out in Nebraska. And I set it up there and I look at it, and I'm looking at the colors, and I'm looking at, you know, how things are kind of coming together through that camera. And if you know, what you should be doing is getting up and getting back and stepping back and taking a look at it. You don't want to paint it here like this, you know, all day, and then you step back and you've lost all your interest because you've blended it all. Because as closer you get like that, we have a tendency to blend, and we don't want to do that. We want to keep this stuff really lively. So let's not do that. All right, so right through here, I did make one little mistake, is that I should have taken this blue down just a little bit more. Let's add just a touch of that. I don't need exactly the same blue. I'm probably going to go just a touch lighter on that sky, and probably go just a little bit lighter here. I should have gone down because we have trees right here, and should have pulled that across. Let's go just a bit lighter. I do like to have a bit of light coming through in streaks and stuff like that, because that's good atmosphere. And I do like it to shift between the phthalo-y kind of blue and the blue violet here. Well, you know, if I move this over, you guys will be able to see that. Sorry about that. But I do like to have, you know, the streaks and stuff through here. So we're going to have some trees, some holidays, you know, into the trees that we can push down. Let's go block in, coming down through here and block in some of our rocks and stuff. And so we're going to go with some nice greens. Yellow oxide, so a touch of that, a touch of that phthalo green blue, which is so darn powerful. You find some greens to your trees and stuff. See, that's a nice green. It will dry just a touch darker. Let's just push a little bit of that in. I'm using my this is a number 10 Fusion flat, and I just roll and push the color here side to side. Let's come down this rock just a bit here, and that'll be a good play against that. Leave a couple of little air spots of the sky and stuff coming through there, but we're going to do it mostly as a block. There is a larger, and that would be a little more burnt umber here, larger little pine And I'm just going to be really kind of casual with these here, side to side, more as a little block here, like that, and push that. Very suggestive of the tree here. This older brush doesn't have a real good chisel on it, so it'll give me a very casual look here. But you know, this is not the important part of the painting. So if you get wrapped up in too much detail way back here, your painting's going to become stiff. So don't be doing that. Let's get just a bit of darker down in there. A bit of that. Moving through, that'll be fine. But I'll probably change over to a different one when I go do some of those other little trees. But first we're going to block in that gray. And so I want to come over here and let's get that out of the way a bit here. And I want to come over here and I want to find some of these grays. They're going to be, I can tell they're going to be burnt umber based. So burnt umber, probably a little bit of the blue, and I'll probably go phthalo blue here. Let's see, it's probably more of an umbery blue, ultramarine blue here. So we'll put a little bit of that in as well. Let's lighten that up. And let's see where we are. Just a little bit more of the gray. We can even add a touch of yellow here. But it's going to be mottled, so we want to be able to model. We want to keep it light. And so looking at the two colors here, let's go to here. What do you see? This one right here, this one right here. My color looks a bit greenish, and that's coming when I added that yellow to that burnt umber. That's what you get, is that greenish. I'm going to kill it right away with a bit of red. That's a nice way to kill it. Or you can cool it with a little bit of red violet. Now I'm not going to try to make the most perfect color here, but we'll see we're a little bit closer there that time with coming in with a little bit of red. So maybe even a little burnt sienna in there, which is one of your red based. And let's go with our burnt sienna blue. Burnt sienna blue might be a better way to grab some of these rocks here. That's a little bit better, a little closer. So we'll go a little more burnt sienna blue up here. Just grab that, and this will all be just good model color. So ultramarine blue is the blue I want to use into these rocks. That's getting me the closest. See, that's giving me the ultramarine blue is giving me the closest to those particular rocks. Lights and darks and reds and stuff. And let's just come in here, and that's a little bit thick. So I want to keep it a bit more thick and granulate. Fractured back here. Okay, so we'll just pull up and down a little bit of that movement up and down there, like that, to emulate that edge of the rock. We'll have lights and darks and all that kind of stuff to put in. We'll have a bit, let's go a bit more blue, because we're going over towards the shadow. Let's touch in some of that, bit more of the blue right back through here. A few of those rocks right back in here. A bit of the rock right up there by where the little waterfall is going to be. Right in there. Okay. Let's take some of this more blue and burnt sienna, blue, maybe a bit of burnt umber, tiny touch of black. I don't use black that often, but let's just come right up in here and touch a few of those right into here to give some impressions of that rock in there. Okay, let's take a bit lighter of that right out here, just peeking out right here, and it's right where this joint is. There's a little rock in the water. Let's put that in. There's another one right in here, which we'll put the planes in, the light struck plane and receding plane and all that stuff later. Let's just block it for right now. Okay, now we're coming up to the point where I have to decide how much of that lichen do I want to put on. Do I want some of this green lichen in there, which let's just go ahead and add some for right now, and we'll work from there and see how much more we want to add during the painting here. Let's pull right up. Where I have these horizontal, these angled lines, that's the next plane. That's a receding plane on the rock. I put that into the sketch. So every time I'm going to have a vertical. So most of my strokes that you see through here, most of it is going to be horizontal until I get up to where I put those vertical marks there, or angled marks. Okay. We'll build some of this up. Then we'll start changing the color up a bit as well. So we'll get multiple colors in there, okay? And go over just a bit. And then we'll come over and lighten it up, okay? A little bit more to this gray color. That's right there. Boy, that's real close. Could have just the tiniest bit of yellow into it. That'll get you closer. Yeah. That gets that real close to that color, and then probably a bit lighter because it will dry darker here. So let's come in and grab some of the big lights. And it has a little more red in it. Once you spread it out there, sometimes your eye can see it a little bit better. Do you see that right there to that right there? That's just a bit green. So it's got a little bit more red in it. A little more red and yellow, a little bit more to the orange base, probably. Here, let's lighten that up and see. It's so strange, you know. I mean, the angle that you're looking at too is gonna affect that there. So that's a little bit better to what that rock is there. And that comes around, and then it'll kind of work into these. We'll use I may even use my scraper when I come in here and block some of this in and get some of that nice interest in there. So, you can see this one is quite an undertaking to take in a small painting time. This one, we might expand this one just a bit, but I think it's a fun painting to do. So, if we go over our time a bit, that's okay. Because there's a lot of elements and a lot of colors, and it's good for you to see here. You know, and this would make a beautiful painting, larger scale painting. So I have a little more umber and a little more blue into it, cooling that back down there. And boy, that's going to make a nice color for some of our receding edges here in these rocks here. And we'll put a little receding edge here like this. You know, I mean, how much you actually render, how close you render it and how much you render it is all dependent upon the time that you have. Could skip this around a bit more in there like that there. But we're getting the block in, so that's important. Let's get a little burnt sienna and blue. Here, a little umber, tiny bit of green maybe, darker, but it is kind of a warm dark right in here. This is kind of an important one because it's setting the look for that little pool here. So we'll set that dark in, and let's put a bit of light color right at the very top of it, just a value or so lighter here, and then just kind of model that through right up here. Nice dark here, a little bit more of that dark right there like that. And you know, when I plein air paint, this is how I do it. I just drag the ferrules of this right here, and I make a quick statement of that angle and the color and the light of where that is, and it does a pretty good job that way. And then I look for other smaller structures like in through here, and then I just bounce my brush around a bit to emulate some of that stuff. And you're emulating it, you're not copying it. You know, you don't want to slow down and get too much into a copy. Okay, so here now you can see I've got a lot of the main core of it captured in there. Let's take a look at it back through there. So you can see I'm a little bit blue on on that very back, which I really should correct because that's part of our journey. So I do want to correct that and put it back up a little bit better. And but overall, the rest of it is sitting pretty good because we have some nice stuff to lights and darks to get in. So let's go right away into that and correct that bit of that bluish color that we have back there. Let's get a bit of our lighter and a bit of our greens. So we're going to go the umbers and the yellows, and we'll get that. And basically what it is, see, is the blue. What is making that color? The blue of the sky and the color of the rocks and the trees and reflections and stuff. So we'll take some of that out, a little bit of the greenish color, so that puts that back in place. Then we'll take a bit of our lighter sky color, not perfect, our lighter sky color here, and just ask to get a little close here. No, just hit that. I had some umber in my brush and it just kept dirtying it, but let's go just a touch of that violet. I'm watching it right here off of this one, see? Okay, so it's nice to have a couple photos of this out. So I got that nice violet. Now this will dry down, but let's just streak a little bit of that back and forth through there. Okay, and we'll go a bit more blue and umber. I love blue and umber in the paintings. It's such a rich color. And streak some of that through there. That could be a bit more of a nice violet through there. So I'll streak a couple of times just to get that. And we'll put a bit of that green back in there. Okay. That color back into that. And we'll get a little closer to that look, and I can smear that a bit, where fracture the edges of that with my finger a bit to smooth that out a bit. I do want to leave some of those ripples which are a bit darker, and you can just take I'm going to take a little phthalo blue and brown and just drag like that with my brush to get a bit of the rippley look back there. Just a bit of that ripple look. That's fine. Let's go back now. We're not pure white, but let's take some of our rock color, a little bit of blue here that's in my brush, some of this rock color. And so if that's dry, just add some burnt sienna to it and a little bit of reds and stuff and yellows. And let's just drop some of that right back here. Okay, right into that particular area there. And let's go grab a little bit more white, model it up. This is my little 6 fusion, and I'm going to encroach on it and just pull down. I want to pull down and just push like that, and that'll give a nice little impression of the water movement there. You don't want to do too much, just a little quick little impression of the water movement. Let's take the edge of it. This is normally where I use like my maul stick, which I don't have, so I have a stick here. And we'll just tap along the edge of the shoreline there. And like I've said to you in other videos, I tend to paint too much. I like to paint too much, and then I like to take it down. So I paint too much, then I'll go back to some of my blues. Let's go a little bit darker. When I take out, you're going to see this into the water up in the front in a minute. When I take out, I lift out, I like it to be just a touch darker because it will pick up some of the light and lighten with it. So I'll take out. See, that's how I like to set that water into position back there. So I paint it too big, and then we take out. We'll take out what we don't like, right like that, and that'll give us our nice little movements here to the water back there, and see what it is that we want to do. Let's put that rest of that rock in, and then we'll be able to know a little bit more. So let's take some of this light, darken this down. Let's just grab some of that and push like that. I'm going to grab that kind of quickly there. There's a bigger, lighter, warmer mark of it right up in there. So we'll grab some of that there, like that. there's always, you know, well, not always, but a nice shadow. Let's create a nice shadow, which we'll use a lot of this, some burnt umber and blue. I love that. Maybe a little cool, sometimes, I mean, a little red violet, sometimes a little black. That always makes this nice shadows that you're going to get along the water and the rock line here that, you know, you just kind of tap that around in there like that, and you'll get those shadows in there. And, of course, we don't have time to make it absolutely perfect, but I do like holding the brush, you know, like I showed you on the Colorado, when we painted the Colorado. I like holding the brush flat and dragging it like that. And then you can come up, just like we did on the Colorado, and make a few other little, you know, relief marks for some different kind of, change the color, model it up, grab a little bit of that light and stuff, model it up, make a few little color marks and stuff along there. See, and that just adds a nice impression of the rock. I always like to come back, though, right before I finish and reset my light, because it's the light that gives the most interest right up through here. So let's just reset a little bit of that movement of that light there into that rock. And you'll see that works pretty well. There's a kind of a nice half tone. Half tone is halfway between, so here's my shadow, here's my light. A half tone would be halfway between those two in color wise. And see that little half tone, half tones are wonderful for creating the life and stuff to these rocks here. They're really needed. Let's get just a touch more of the dark. I took some of that out there. There we go. Out like that. So that sets that back. They're pretty nice. Now we'll grab some of this light and we'll go up here towards, get rid of some of these little holidays up here. Drag that, grab a bit of dark, let that just model right up into the trees up there like that. Just let that sit up there. That's all it really needs. We don't have time to do a whole bunch of other stuff here. But this one has a little bit better point on it, so I could do a little bit more work there. Okay, so that goes in, and we have a bit of that green. I could restate some of that green. Now it's drying up here on my palette, but this is what I like. I just add some water to it here. Just add some water, and you can see it reconstitutes back up. That's what I like about the Heritage. Some other acrylics that have a lot of vinyl in them will kind of roll and create little icky things, but that works kind of good. That's a little bit more green than what it is, so let's just, and let's not get too precise into it. I've been painting that fox. Let's see, this hand. Oh, that fox over there, and it's all a tonal painting of mixing up all the tones. So, and they're really great to teach your eye. You know, so many of you write to me and go, "Oh, I'm not an artist. I can't do this." Yeah, you can. You just got to teach your eye to see the color. And so by putting the photo here and mixing it, you know, and then you take like a color theory class and stuff where you know how to mix those colors, and so you can see, your eye will start to see this has a little more red in it, this has a little more yellow in it. And you just have to get close. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to get close. And you start looking at every little area and tone, and you start putting that in. It's a lot easier when you think. Anybody can do it. You just have to learn how to see it. You know, it's, you know, one of my friends who was a teacher always told me, he said, you know, if you can teach somebody to write, then you can teach somebody to paint, because they're, you know, it's the same type of thing. It's really is. I'm going to put just a bit more of that violet right across that angle there of that. And then I'm going to stop back there, because that's way in the back of the painting, and you know we don't really need all of that back in there. So that's a good color, but that does get that closer. And see, I just start to you know, get it a little closer and a little closer as we start to do. Let's take some of that violet, because that's a pretty violet. Let's drop some of that right up over here, right up into this part of the painting, and we'll move that forward there. Let's go grab some of our light, And in that light, let's put a bit of this violet into this. Model this into your brush so it's not absolutely perfect. And this is right where we're going to go here. We're just going to drag this and roll, pitch and roll the brush like that here as you push that on there, okay? Now, when you look at that, okay, let's come over just a bit. When you look at that, see there's a darker little tone sitting back behind there. So let's just go right into a little bit of our, even an ultramarine blue. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a darker little tone. And I'll take that out with a couple of strokes. I hit that white a little bit much, so I'll just rinse my brush and do it again. Take that out, okay? A bit of that blue, though, can be used to come down in through here to create that movement into the water. Okay, there's a bit, see the movement that's there, see? See that movement that's in there? So we have to do it with light or dark. So you can, and a lot of times I do it with dark because the dark's more powerful and easier than the light. And so I'll do that. So I have that. Now I could put out a bit more of that light right up in here, right there. We can take a bit of our green, some of this other color here, and just go through that, tap through it to get a little bit more interest in it. Okay, and it still is just a bit big. So I'm going to take a little blue and green here and come right back up next to that. See how easy it is to paint out the light with the dark? That's what I like to do. And push some of that in there. Now let's get a little more bubbly action right with the corner of our brush here. We'll just add a bit or mark or two or so like that. That works. Let's put a little mark. Maybe there's something back out there that just helps a bit back there. Okay, coming forward here. Okay, so we're coming forward. We're going to put a line here. I have a nice harsh line here, but we need to break that up. So let's take a little ultramarine blue and some green and just break that line up. This is where you get a lot of interest in your water, especially with the acrylics because it's dry. So it's not mixing. So I can get these layers and this movement in there like that. So many people think it has to be wet. No, it doesn't. Now, as I come to paint forward here, there is something that you can start to do. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. There's something that you can start to do with your paints, and that is to add extender. Extender will keep them wet a little longer, and so I have it out here. It'll keep it wet a little longer and allow you to take out and manipulate the color a little bit. However, it is dangerous in that it allows you to also blend. So I like it, but I'm also very careful with it. So I'm going to put a little light color of my greens and blues here. I'm going to try to change it up a bit here as I'm coming up to this forward water here that we'll try to push that around. See, I can push that around in there. Not too much because you don't want to blend it. I don't blend. I like to set up the tones. Let's get a little more ultramarine blue and green. I'm just putting in just a little bit of extender to loosen this up. Back up over here. Don't cover up all we did with that original tone. That's where a lot of your interest of your water comes. Okay. You can see back in through here any kind of little touches of browns. Yeah, there would be because there's underlying rocks and structures underneath there. So you can give that feeling and that impression right like that. Not too much because that's wet because of the extender. So, but you can give that feeling of those underlying structures and stuff there, okay? Now, let's come in here. Let's take our greens and our blues and let's take a big old dollop of white right in here like this and model this. Now, don't overmix this, just about like that. Okay, and I know that looks kind of like a mess, but I'm going to pick that up onto my brush here. And what I'm going to do is lay my brush down kind of flat right through here and pick up and move this through just like that. Just ever so lightly dragging it here. Just drag some of that and we can push the highs and lows of the water. Let's pick up just a bit more white with that, but not too much, and just add a bit more of that light in there, okay? Now this is going to stay wet because I've added some extenders. Not going to stay wet for long. I only add enough. I know how much to add. I only add enough that's going to stay wet for about a half hour or so because I want to get out of here. Okay, now so once I set that light in, and then I take out. So I'm going to come right back up here to kind of a medium value blue-green with some of that umber in there so it's nice and toned for what that water is. I'm going to have a paper towel in my hand like this, and I'm going to add the action of the movement of the water here just by lifting out and pulling a bit. If I start to drag too much color, I pinch wipe it on my paper towel, and I do it again. And I'll take out some of this light that's right here, right where I want it. I want to get a bit more blue over here, so I pick up just a bit more blue and go side to side like this, right, tapping right up by that water, and lift and tap it right into that light, and you leave light right where you want to leave light. See? Let's isn't that fun? I mean, this is fun. And let's just drag a little light right here to show you something. Okay, and that's kind of an interesting little light in there, but now I'll put it into position. Let's take a little bit more blue, since I have a little bit more blue over there, and I'll drag through, take out and adjust what I want to move through. Leave a little bit around that rock, and just a little bit of that in there. That looks kind of cool there. And I don't try to copy the water that I'm seeing perfectly. A little bit of extender, just a little bit here. I'm going to increase my light just a touch right in there, right through there. Now see, I'll put on too much here. And we're going to take this, it goes right up by this rock. So let's just take that right up by that rock, splashing up there by that rock. Now, and you can see the little bits of movement. Let's here of this. So now I go back to my dark, and I'll come right in here like this and take out. You can see the movement that I grab into that white, see? So that your brush calligraphy becomes very important here for the movement of your water, okay? So, and you can push up like this to take out, to make that water kind of splash a little bit more. See how that splashes that water a bit right up there like that? Okay? And don't try to copy, just use good movements of the water here. Just good feelings of movements of the water. A little bit of blue onto this side. We'll take out just a bit here, like that. Let's put in, let's get a little more blue, a little darker. Sometimes you get dirty with white. That's why I'm always wiping it with a paper towel and changing it or stuff, so you get dirty with white. Let's pull down, like this water's coming this way over a little rock, see? And so you give that direction to that water, see? Just like that. It's a lot of fun. So just a little bit of extender keeps it open here for a while. I don't want to do it for too long, because if I want to come back and change something, I don't want to lose everything I've done before, which is one of the things that happen. Well, that looks pretty good happening right there. Is one of the things that happens with oils that I didn't like with oils. Now, there's a lot of people that love oils, and they're great. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that for me, this works for me, and even if it dries, I can go back over it and work it again just like this, even more transparent, and get even more interest to it. I control it. I feel I have more control on it. This is going to splash up here by this rock there like that, and then I'll take some of the dark here. Let's just take out a little bit. Take out a bit, and the taking out is so important. Burnt umber and blue here. Model it though. Change it. Change it up. Makes a little bit of that greenish color. A little darker. It's going to fall down right here by this rock. We see that. We might do that again a couple of times here. There, it's going to fall down by that rock. Okay. So now we have all of this in here. And sometimes this is where I just come in and I put it on with my scraper. You've seen me do that in the oceans, you know, with when I do that, when I got a large area, you know, I don't fuss around with a small brush. I go in there and attack it with a bigger brush. Like I might, you know, I'll just do it this way. Wait, you just don't want to, what do you want to say? You don't want to mix it too much. Because you know, if you pick up on there, see, you want this modeling. See that modeling of the colors that's there? You don't want to lose that. That's part of your interest of the water here. So I'm just going to pick that up and drag this across here like this a bit. We're going to have some more light of that coming through. Okay. There's heavier whites right in here coming off of this splash, and I want to show more light. Now see, so I don't do the direction of the water here with this big brush like this. I'm putting it on, and I'm just kind of capturing a little bit of the movement here. But the actual movement, for me, with the acrylics is going to come through, it's going to come through the darks, not through the lights. Okay, so I splash on quite a bit there. There's quite a bit splashed on. Let's take our burnt umber blue kind of color here. Pretty color, a little bit of phthalo green, blue in there. It's real pretty here. Let's come down. Now let's say we want this water to come down this rock here. We're just going to pull that down. Now if I want it softer, I'll go a little bit more of a lighter value. But you can go a lighter value and then slowly to a darker value. And I take off like that, and that's giving the motion of the water here, see? I'm just going to capture a bit of that coming down here. Wipe my brush, pick up some more color. Let's pull some down this way. Here. Maybe add a little bit of extender. I like how that just causes the color to slide. It does not pick up the color as fast as water because it's not a solvent. But it does give causes the color to slide. So now let's work a little bit lighter color because the tone that's going to be, let's just slide this over here so you can see that a little bit more. The tone that's working right in here around this rock is a little bit lighter here. So let's just go grab that area and work that tone into this wet white that's here. Work that in, a little bit of that working. A little bit of that is side to side over here. Here, like that. Boom, some of that. There's a bit of that blue. See that nice ultramarine blue right here? That we can grab some of that mark right there and lift out. Pull back and forth a bit. Leave a bit of your splash. Pull into that a bit. We can add more splash. You know, you can add more. That's the nice thing about it. Let's work through some of this. So, through that. And even if this dries, mine's not dry, but even if this dries on you, you can continue to work and take out, paint the tones. That's what I like about it. Let's get a darker tone, a little more blues back up here. Nice deep tone, and that will play up against this edge here. There we go. Nice deep tone coming in there. And yeah, that's good. And so I can come back at any time. Let's just take our small brush here and lightly touch the surfaces of this to create some more movement to the water, some more bubbly action to the water. Okay, you just pick up, and you got to use that thicker white paint here. And if your white's really liquid, it won't work. It's got to be the thicker. That's one reason why in the Heritage we made the white just a touch thicker than some of the other colors, because you can always thin it out really easy. Let's take some of this. That's pretty. Go to that moderate medium tone here, and take out just a bit. So this is where I start to look a little bit into the details of the water. See, I can take out, and you can reverse bubbly it and get some nice stuff going there. Every once in a while, add a little extender, feed the color on your palette so it doesn't dry out on you, but it doesn't hurt if it does dry out. Your acrylics, we work with it, it's gonna dry. And I want it to dry. That's why I'm not adding tons. There is the global colors you can use, but when I started out painting a lot with the global colors, and and then when I wanted it to dry, it wasn't dry, so I've started using this method where I really like. Now I do enjoy the global colors. Globals is where we mix up the extender into the colors first, and you can extend the drying time for several hours. But a lot of times I'm ready to move on, and let's put a little bit of that dark. Let's go just a touch more green into that here. Touch more of our greens right up into here through. And I just love that nice skippy light color in there. And you can bubble it all up, but I like to take my brush. See, and I'll add too much, especially into the movement of that water. I'll add too much, and then I'll come back and take out. That's how I like to do it. And I'll bubble that and take out some. But let's just bubble that a little bit. Let's just bubble this a bit more, coming down through here, right like that. That's going pretty good. A little more heavier right in there. Yeah, coming down and through. And then you go back, grab a medium value here. Let's take out a bit. And we'll take out a bit. You can push with your finger to get some of that motion, but I don't like to to push too much or too hard, because I'll start to blend, and I'm not blending. I'm painting a tone into this and just kind of sliding into those areas there. Now I hit some of that white and I took some of that out. That's what I don't like, is that gets still too wet and I'll end up taking it out. So, because I paint dry. I like to dry. Let's take a not quite white and push a little bit of that right in there. And we'll take some of this and go side to side right over here, pushing some of that water, that look of water in there. There, like that. Now it's more dark, which is kind of nice, so I'll probably increase this a bit. A little bit more dark, burnt umbers, and these colors here through this area here. So I'll just go side to side like this, and maybe a little water into that so it thins it out a bit. I paint optically like this. This is good optical painting, and it starts to there we go. That's kind of a nice look there to that one. And I could have a little bit more of that green that we had earlier, so a little bit of the yellow oxide in there. Let's get that. Of course, we got to paint the undertow structures here of the rocks underneath the water. So, you're gonna have that. But you can see you get some nice water. Let's splash them back up over onto this side here. You can see a little bit more splash, not pure white. So let's don't go pure white. Model this down a bit here, and just run this around here like that to get a little more splashing color. Now, a lot of times, and I've made a little bit of an error here, a lot of times I paint those rocks before I splash. Doesn't hurt anything. You just go paint the rock, and if you have to splash back up over it, you do that. But it always helps when you're going to splash like that, because that splash doesn't have any kind of direction. So I go back to, and we're a little more blue over there, so I go back to a medium tone color here into my brush, and I paint into that a little bit of direction of the water. Wipe my brush, paint back into it again, wipe my brush, pick up a little more color, and just pulling a bit like that, I can give some movement direction to that water. Do you see? So it's splashing and getting some movement all at the same time there. Let's so we're gonna take some light color. Let's get back up over towards our rocks over here. Slightly different, a little bit different, but close. Here, a little more blue. Here, over to some of our nice rock color that we were going to have in there, and let's put just a bit of the light tone on that rock there. Maybe a touch lighter, touch of yellow, nice light hit right there. Just drag that right over the edge of that rock there. You can, let's hit it just a bit back there. Push that a bit. If you push it, I shear it off, and so it's not as light. Even though I use the same color there and there, I push it till where it's not. It gets a bit darker. Let's take a bit of blue and burnt umber here, and we'll put that cooler shadow side into this rock here. A bit of that right there, okay? And yeah, that works good. Let's put a nice little shadow side into that one there, so see it just a bit. You might want to, since it is a structure back there, we might want to bring it forward. You know, you're the artist. You start to decide what needs to come forward, what could, you know, make a better statement, you know, in your painting. Here, you know, you don't just look at the photo, change some of the stuff up a bit. Okay, so now it's, you know, what you do when you get over here is you add like the watercolor and the rock color together. That makes your underlying structures, the colors for your underlying structures that are underwater here. So you just push those colors together here, and you can give the impression of some of these rocks and stuff underwater. And then when you override it with a water shine or something like that, that's what gives the look of the clear transparency of the water. So you take your rock color, a little bit of your watercolor, you put that in, and see then if I take just a little bit of the light, and I either put just a tiny bit of the light here, drag that across or drag that across there, you get more look of the transparency of your water by seeing the color through there. So that helps a bit. So we can, I mean, you can play the water like this quite a bit. And, you know, and I suggest that you try. It's kind of fun to try some of that. But, you know, leave some of those nice movements. Now I have one up here that's that big kind of a blobby thing there. So I'm going to change that movement down like this and create just a bit more. See how that white is still wet there? So I picked up that white that's still wet. And see, I don't like doing that. I'd rather do it with a tone. So then I'll just grab that. That's a better kind of like this is all kind of folding in. And let's get a better movement here. Kind of like that's coming down, almost like a little V shape there. That's all coming down in there and splashing around. Not too bad. I mean, you can work this water as much as you want. Here a little bit more, maybe a little trail of that coming down. It's not in the photo, but it's going to be in mine. There we go. That's kind of good. Maybe a bit more of the white splashed right in there. There we go. Just like that. There, splashing down into that. That's kind of pretty. Now I've got to get some more stuff going on here in the painting itself. Back up. Let's get some of our siennas, a little bit of our greens. Back up in here. Let's get a bit more going on and determine just how light I want to make it back in there. A little bit of burnt umber and green. push some of this around. This is just good movements in here. But get some different colors and some slightly different movements in there. It occupies a large position of the painting, so we want to keep some color movements in. Don't create a rainbow, but we do want to keep some color movements and stuff in there. Get rid of a few little holidays there. And that looks pretty good. And let's come up and work on, let me go back to my other one that has a better chisel. We'll come back up, take some of these browns and these umbers, siennas here, and let's come back up and add a bit of the trees, ideas of the trees here, coming back up and across, a few of them here. Some of this motion, and a little looser, that paint's a little stiff, so I add just a bit of water to it here. Just a bit of that motion, breaking through the trees here, starting to see a few more things here, there, like that. And small, you see on this other, we'll go right over this other hill line there. We'll just vary the height and stuff of them, vary the widths here. Just tap some, just make the impressions. You're just capturing the impression. We want everybody down here looking at our magnificent water, so we don't want to spend too much time back there on a bunch of trees because our water is magnificent, right? That's what we want people looking at. And we'll put a few little bits going on back here, just quickly, suggestively, very suggestive here. Some of that coming back through. We'll take some of the lighter green here. Let's come back in here with some of our ideas of our lighter greens. We were going to create this area of some light greens. Come through here. Light green bushes and stuff like that. Let's change up the green. Little haunts of yellow, little white. Little Dave, that's a little too much. Softer green, some umber in it here. Keep this very suggestive. See, I love the push. I mean, this is one of my favorite painting brushes, is this fusion, like this soft brush that I just push the corners of it here to create some different thing. You can create, you know, bushes and other trees and other stuff. There's a bit of rock right in there. We can, now see, this is dry. Extender will not, this is somebody who wrote me this question, extender will not bring out that, lift it up. Extender is only to keep the paint wet. What will do this is a solvent, and the solvent is water. So you add water to it, and I can bring that rock color back here. So we'll put some of this rock color pulling down here. Some of this, just little ideas of that rock back there. Remember, we're painting quick. We're plein air. We're trying to just capture things. So, you know, if you want to, it's like I said with the last one, if you want to make a nice painting, you know, go grab a bigger board and let's do it up royal, you know, let's do it up nice. Let's go to at least an 8, you know, a 14 by 18, or maybe even a real nice 16 by 20 or something like that. Give a little more oomph to the painting. It gives you more room to work more tones and do more things. Here's a little bit of that burnt sienna into that, pulling down just a touch to create some more of that look. Let's take some of that burnt sienna though. Let this kind of die back up over here. A little bit of a rock look, but you're just seeing it die back there a bit. You know, maybe just a touch lighter, bit of the umbers, some different color tones here, right in through here. Now that's a bit light. Let's get a bit darker. Just come right along this edge, like there's, you know, other rocks and stuff here. That would make this, and take just a couple minutes, put some of that through. Not real wild and crazy, but that's just going to add a bit to your painting. But we do want to leave some of that dark because our painting is playing against that dark. But maybe some nice vertical lines here, like that's a couple of rocks, you know, pulling down there like that. You're still in shadow, but you've got the impression of that, you know, happening. And yeah, that works. That works. Let's get even a tiny bit lighter. I do like some of the idea of that light, like a little light is hitting right out through here, coming through here, and hitting just a few little places there. Let's get this a little more light yellow and hit a bit of our lighter green over here. And see some of that light, and of course you can always add more, you can do more things, right? And you know, you can add as much contrast as you like. It's yeah, and just it's so funny. My wife and I are separated right now, not from our marriage, but when all of this thing happened, my wife is works in the medical field, and she's treating COVID patients right now back in Pennsylvania. And so she's locked it down in Pennsylvania. I'm out here at our studio in Nebraska. And so we haven't seen each other for a couple months now, and we still won't see each other for another couple of months. But we Skype each other and talk to each other each day and everything. And I saw on social media, I posted this really high contrast rose painting onto Facebook. And she made a comment on there. This is what I call a marriage-saving painting, because she likes a lot of contrast, and I like things not quite so contrast. So she'll love this painting. She'll love this painting. Where myself, I tend not to paint with a lot of contrast. I don't like it as much, but I do it because it's fun and it's exciting, you know. But I like toned colors, so let's put just a little bit more yellow. But everybody's different. That's the beautiful thing about art and fun, and you can have some fun with it and try some different things, you know. So there we got that coming back through. That's kind of nice. Let's take a little bit more toned, not quite as bright, and add just a few little touches of that back through here, like it's hitting some of the pines. You could even bring some, if you wanted to, you know, bring some motion out through here like this of pine trees and stuff like that, and then set it all back. After you put some of that in, set it all back with a glaze of color. So, you know, that's the beautiful thing about acrylics, is you give that just a second to dry up here, and because I used it real thin, then I'll take a real thin glaze of the water and some of that dark through there and work that through. And if I scrub a bit, I even soften the edges out a bit, like, and you can see some of the little movement, like there's trees and stuff going on there, you know. We should probably push a little bit of that movement kind of stuff up here towards these edges here. And you know, and so if I want to really make sure I have a good definition between my planes, I'll lighten up. I'll use a little cooler green, so a little blue and yellow. Lighten up right here like this and drag some of this color right down into here like this, and make a better definition between my greens here, or my areas there of those darks. So we'll pull the darks out here just a bit. Here, like that. Smaller movements. Here. You can refine that, but that's how what you would do. You would you do like that, and see, you get a better plane, better difference in the plane. And you'll look into the photo and you'll see, you know, there's some dead trees and stuff like that. Maybe you want to emulate some of those, you know, in there. You can certainly do that. But like I say, here is, we're working kind of fast because we're trying to grab everything here as quickly as possible. So let's go in and let's decide. Let's take some of this. Let's be brave here. Let me where's my, here we go, my normal palette knife here. Let's be brave and let's just mix up some rock color here. That's going to be blues and reds, bit of our yellows, bit of some of these greens, some whites here. You look at where you are, very grayed. So we'll get a little bit more red into that here. Yeah, a bit more yellow. Model this all up here. Model it all up. And this is what really makes great. Now we're, you know, I'm not too far off. Actually, it's kind of nice there like that. But I want to get a bit lighter and maybe a bit more yellow, so I'm going to come right over here and add some of that right up over here. Now you can do it with your knife, you can do it with your brush, you can add a lot of interest just by doing this. Let's model some of this together. And see, I drag it like this and look at it for just a minute and decide if I need a little bit more light or something into that. Let's just come right up over here like this and just drag right across. And see how much power that puts into the, you know, this front part of the rocks right away. Puts a lot of, let's go over just a bit more. Puts a lot of power into the rock. And let's get a little bit more light. Tap that just a bit. Come right up here by the edge and pull back. Here, lightly pull over it and you'll get those broken fracturing marks. There, like that. Okay, so, and you know, you could use a smaller one. This is the only one I had in my palette right now. You could use this is a 2-inch, so probably a 1-inch would probably be a little bit better, Dave. But lift the pressure on it and just drag a little bit, and you'll get more opened area, fractured areas. But it's also nice to take and push back in some darks back there and get some fracturing that way. This is the front of the painting where you really want to use a lot of paint, you know. So, and I really should have had that up just a touch higher. I've done that wrong the last couple of times. So get that touch higher. You can use the other palette knife in there and grab some of that and just break up some of that interest and stuff there in the front of those rocks like that. See, and you know, we can take this. Now you could add extender to this, it stays wet. Okay, you can add extender to this, it stays wet. There's a, you know, I'm a mixer. I don't mind mixing again. There's a hazard by keeping it wet, is you'll keep putting it on, putting it on, putting it on, and blend it all out and becomes the same. The thing is about it drying, you let it dry up and all that kind of stuff. You got to mix it again. You're mixing it slightly different. It's just blues and reds and yellows, a little bit of green. We added a bit of our greens back up over here and yellow greens if we want to create those kind of lichen colored rocks and stuff back there, you know. So if we want some of this to come back here like that and drag up over that, that just gives you nice interest, you know, to those rocks back there. Just, you know, drag it. I love dragging over it when the other part's dry. See, I can just push a little bit like this and create some fracturing areas of the rocks and stuff. You know, it's just great. We can take these two together, kind of model them together, come right back down through this area and drag a bit of both. And what do I do? You know, with the rocks, just like I do with the water, I come back with my darks and shape them with my darks. I paint out with my darks. You know, there's a lot of people that add the highlights at the last. I don't. I'm usually painting darks at the very last. Let's add a nice little bit of the rock pulling right out here like this. You could also use the flat of your brush and drag it like I showed you on, you know, on the Colorado. Let's lighten up a bit. Get this just a bit lighter because my wife will love the contrast here. And I'll pull just a bit lighter through there like that. Okay. And let's pick that up a bit more. Get just a bit more paint. Now see, amount of paint, guys, is so important right now. I'm troweling on paint paint visually gives you these textures and lets all of this area advance and do nice things like you know what you're doing. Okay, it's paint is so very important right now. Let's so that's gonna expand out. Let's put a little bit more light right in here. Okay, now I'll grab one of your brushes. This is my number 6. Let's come in, let's grab some burnt umber, some green, some of our blues, a little red maybe. Just make a nice dark. And we're going to change and vary that dark, right? And so then we'll come in, let's pull back up and just push in that dark, you know, into that edge of that rock there. I could have a bit more of a contrast of the light there. Nice little light hit. Use just the tip of the knife or use the diffusion brush gone real flat. And the big thing is, do them all. You know, that's where, boy, that looks not too bad. Let's pull this over here for a second. That's not too bad. I'm a little bit more greened and I'm not too bothered by that. You know, I like that. But I do like it. See, I have a little bit more light back through there. I do like that. You know, but the thing is, do it all, right? Do it all. I mean, that's what makes a beautiful painting. You know, we always say as artists, what we try to do is stay away from repetitive strokes and marks. That's what, you know, repetitive strokes and mark is what kills a painting. So you try to stay away from that. So you could do big block like that big palette, you know, knife, and then palette knife, and then work down into your smaller brushes. There was this wonderful artist that I studied in the 80s, and she was just absolutely magnificent. But she always had this little saying that, you know, you start out at painting with a broom and you finish it with a needle. So you get smaller and stuff with your touches and your ideas and stuff like that, and your brush marks and everything as they get smaller and down. Well, I should move that over so you guys can see. And you know, it's just beautiful, just an incredible portrait, floral, landscape painter. And you know, there's a good thing about that. Starting out big and then just start getting smaller and smaller. Put these lights right up against these darks right up here like this into these rocks, and you'll get that, you know, and I may extend it a little bit more, extend my dark so I get a little more contrast there. You know, I'm adjusting the photo a bit for what I want, you know, play these lights against these darks here, and wipe your brush. I'm always wiping that brush off so I can keep control of the tone. But let's put in that side plane here again. Here a bit onto that. Here. That's kind of nice. Let's get a bit darker right up against the edge of the water. That'll make the water shine some more. Your darks are so important to make your water shine. Just all kinds of fun things. You know, and you try fun things. That's I like that little broken rock area in there. See, so I'll take out my light by pushing hard. And see, I picked up all my light. You can see that here, see? I picked up all my light. And I've got to wipe that off to get rid of that. And what I'll do is let's change the tone just a bit because it's a little bit more red up above that. And let's just kind of like build another little rock shape here, picking out some of that. And see, this acrylic that I put on here will stay wet for a good hour or so. I don't like it to, but it's nice to have this to work into. You know, I mean, you can change this now. Let's put in just a touch of the dark right along this edge right here, and I'm going to leave that. You see, and I'm going to leave that little bit here. We changed. Now see, so I have this tone right here, and I just let it mix up with a little bit of the water. Do you see that? This would be a nice spot to let the water look like it comes in there. So what I do is little greenish color I just drug right into there, drug the water and everything right into that edge right there. Now, I will put in a more severe change of light right against that edge right there. Boom. And a little bit of shadow, a little bit of greenish rock kind of shadow right there against that, up and down a bit. And what it does is, see, it makes it look like that water, it's either a reflection or the rock, another rock right up underneath it. And then if I take any of my lighter watercolor, here's the blue and the white here, and let's get a little green. Doesn't need to be the same exact color, okay? Doesn't need to be. Let's just drag a bit of that right there, just across like that, right even out into there like that, see? And it looks like water sitting up over the rock, see? And especially if you squint and get way back, it looks like it. It's a lot of fun. You know, these are all optical things, and this is what I've spent my career studying, is different ways to get optics. There's thousands of them, and there's, you know, all over YouTube and the things, there's artists doing all kinds of different ways. And what you have to remember is there's not just one way, you know, not just one way to do something. There's lots of ways, and really great ways. And some ways work better for you, some ways work better for other people. I'm just going to push some of this around, you know, a little, and break some of this up. As it starts to get a little bit tacky, I like it where it's a little thinner out here. I get a little more tacky. As it gets tacky, you can see I get some nice rough looks to it that I like. And I can come in here and make little broken rock vein lines and stuff like that, and model this a little different color here. Drag another little broken line here, tap my brush up and down, create all kinds of little nooks and crannies and all that kind of stuff here. You know, you can work on this a lot here to create some of that, set some of that interest back in there. It's not too bad working like that. Hey, that's not bad. We're at an hour and a half. So an hour and a half into the painting here like this. And I was thinking this was going to take me closer to 2 hours. You know, you get a lot done when you take that scraper, boom, and it just puts it on. And you go, wow, that got it all done there. You know, I'll watch this as it dries, and I may add a few more little lights, and through here as this dries. I may add a little bit more to bring it forward. Watch this, it all depends. Now, my water here, as this dried down, I could build that up a little bit more. That's up to you to decide. And how do you build it back up? Let me just show you, okay? So I'll put a little bit more light in there. I'll do that. You can see this light I'm just putting on is actually getting closer to there. So I could have a little bit more white into that. That light color into there. But let me just show you this with the, so I'll take, I see I had some water right down here. Let's take a little blues and a bit of my yellows, just a bit. Oh, that's pretty color. I don't necessarily need the same color. I just need it in the same ballpark. I'll take some white. Let me show you. So this in through here is pretty dry, see? It's been over 30 minutes. It's pretty dry here. That's why I add, I painted with the extenders and stuff for so long. I know exactly pretty much by the conditions of the room what's here, how much extender to add, because I didn't add that much to make the colors, dry pretty quickly. But let's say I want to come in here and add a little bit more. So I'll add some more whites, light colors in through here, spark that up just a bit wider. Then I'll go back to my medium. I'm going to take this out with medium and see, just take it out. Now, I'm not even using extender. I'm working one little area at a time, and I'll just drag right along there. See, that makes pretty water. It's almost like it's foaming right along the top of it here. You don't need to blend this top light into that shadow. You can, but it doesn't need to be, because we're painting optically here. Let's expand this light down just a little bit more here. Okay, drag just a bit more of this. Let me drag some of this out here so I can show you. So I'll put on too much there, right? I'll put on a little bit too much. I've got to find any one of those tones. Doesn't even have to be the same. Let's just take some green, some blue, and some brown here. Okay, and a little bit of burnt sienna is kind of nice. I could add some yellows in there too if I want. Doesn't have to be the same. Pinch wipe that, put that in your brush. Pinch wipe out so you have just a little bit in there, and paint back into that color. Let's even go to a medium value right in here and take some of that out. Sometimes I'll push it with my finger to drag it, not too many times because I don't want to blend it, but I add a little bit of dragging, of motion. See, that's what I'm adding to the water here, is that motion. By just going over that lightly like that, glazing over it a little bit. I'm painting optically. I'm not blending, I'm painting optically here, which means that when I say I'm painting optically, what it means is I'm not blending it. I'm painting it to where I start to see a softening or a breaking of the edge, okay? And then as you get back, it's going to blend. So now look at that from that camera there. It's pretty good. It looks pretty good from that distance, okay? So if we just lighten up these rocks here, I'll just come back up over here. I might even use my knife here. Might even get a little braver with a little bit more mottled up light, maybe a bit of that yellowy green right in there like that, and get a little bit braver, a little bit more texture. That could go a little lighter than that. Let's go even a little lighter yet. You'll have to know, because this is where you've got to test it and you've got to watch it a little bit, because your acrylics dry down. And when you think that you have it light enough, I mean, how many of you have painted along with the roses with me, and then you thought, wow, I got that rose perfect using that white in there, and then when it dried darker, right? And then you put more on and stuff, and yeah, and that's one reason why I like to go to acrylics, because the drying time is shorter and my response time to looking at it is quicker, so I can see in the painting right away, do I need to do a little bit more or so to that. Let's just add a couple of broken little fracturing things there, which are kind of nice. And a little bit more light maybe right across some of that. Break that up just a bit. There, like that. And I'll soften some of that, but see, oh boy, I'm sorry, you guys didn't get to see that. Dragging that across, and see that dragging gives this, and then you could come in and soften the little edges. But if you're painting optically, don't try not to. I mean, if you're up here looking at it like this, you're going to want to soften it. But if you're going to step back and look at it like that, you're not going to want to soften it. Does that make sense? Yeah, because it's doing its job here. It's doing its job okay. Let's put a bit of that light right up and through here. And then I think we'll stop the video, because it's pretty close and you got a pretty good idea how to go back and paint something like this. Could you come back and work a little bit more back there? Yeah, I mean, I'm right about the same value as you see back through there. Could you do it a little bit more? Yeah, you could. I mean, if you wanna increase the visual journey, you can even, we could even splash a little more white back there and increase the visual journey back to the painting. Splash a bit more right up in there, a little bit more splash, and through all of this right in through there. Just drags you right in to the front, and then I could even build up still yet a little bit more white up in here into my splash. Even, what's real good is if you add just a touch of yellow into that to get that nice warm, that white warm color. Maybe, and that yellow oxide's the best. Maybe take some of that out with just a little, yeah, see, that's pretty. I don't know if the camera can pick up that little bit of detail, but you take it out with just a little warm yellow light there, and that's kind of nice. But splash some of that around, splash some of this. Let's just grab and splash a bit of that there further onto that rock, And, you know, it's just kind of fun. It's just kind of fun. And to see it. I love painting the rocks and love painting the water like this and little streams and stuff. And, you know, and I used to think, oh, you know, when I first started them, I used to think, you know, I've got to keep my paints super wet for a long time. And, you know, I worried about, you know, slowing down my acrylics, you know, when I moved away from oils and slowing down my acrylics. And you don't. You paint optically like I show here. You know, I can come back even into any kind of area like it's dry right here, right? All I have to do is come with a tone that is very close here, and I can paint out. I can paint out into the direction that I want that to go. Just tap that a little bit, and you get a great look. And see, that's kind of a pretty little tone to add in there. Yeah, and you'll find these kinds of things around, and that just adds an extra little spark. Makes you wish sometimes, you know, you made the painting a little bigger so that you could put a little bit more into a painting like this. This is a pretty little set of rocks and water and stuff here. We'll add just a bit here, just a bit of that light stuff through there. Makes a pretty little painting. But okay, so see, that's drying down. I probably could go, it's real close, but I could probably go a little bit lighter. Look for other areas that you need to go a little darker too as well. Evaluate your painting and look for your lights and darks. You know, it's the lights and darks that create the ultimate contrast in the painting. So here I'm just going to go a little bit more burnt umber here. Let's just take this just a little bit darker right in this area. See, I'll just glaze over that a bit, push it, let it just happen optically here. I'll not blend it. I'll leave a little bit of the fracturing edge, and then the optics will blend it. When you step back there like that, we'll do the blending on it. And you know, that for me is the greatest way. All right? Okay. Thanks for joining me. It's kind of a fun one to try something like that. Moving water and everything is great. And you know, it's an hour and a half. You know, we did pretty good for an hour and a half, you know, in the painting like this. And especially with that water that you think, oh, it's going to be so complicated. It really isn't. It really isn't. Put it on, splash it on. Now remember, you can splash with a lower value and a highlight, a real light value. And your hand should look like that too. But you can splash with a lower value and a light value. But then you give direction. You give direction to these, you know, these wonderful acrylics this way by lifting off. Keep a paper towel. That's why I keep a big stack of paper towels here, because I'm constantly grabbing it, wiping it, taking out, wipe it. If you don't wipe your brush, you'll take light color right back there again up at the top, and you'll stroke it down, and then all your water effect is gone, okay? So constantly wipe your brush, lift off, and use the dark to direct the water, all right? That's just one of many different types of techniques that I use to paint water, but it works very well on some of these. There's a lot of them that the masters have taught us over the years, and hopefully someday we'll get to paint them all together, okay? Thanks for joining me, and we'll find another really nice one for next week. I still want to do a beach scene with you and do some of that and show you that painting of that kind of water and that kind of movement and stuff. So, you know, I have some great photos of some of the Oregon coastline where I grew up. We spent a lot of time on vacations with, and I lived there for a couple years and love it. But I have some great paintings and great memories of those areas. So maybe we'll paint something along there, like a seat ahead or something. All right? Okay. Have a lot of fun. And if you like it, want to see more of it, please hit the like. Maybe leave a comment. And, you know, because that helps our distribution of our videos, okay? So we really appreciate it when you hit that like button and you leave a little comment. Just comment like, wow, or something like that, okay? All right. Thanks a lot. I'll see you on the next one.